Hi, I'm Lori George with Let's Make Art. Welcome to part 4 of our Acrylic Beginner Series. One of my favorite things about the acrylic medium is that you can add so many mediums and additives to it to create different textures, change the appearance and the consistency or thickness of your paint. And so I'm going to share my favorites with you today. So one of the ones that we'll talk about first is gesso. You may have heard of gesso before. It is a primer for your paper or canvas. If you've worked with Jessie with art journaling, you may have heard of the Dina Wakley gesso. Either of these gessos work. Also going to show you some soft gel matte medium here. We'll also talk about Flo Aid there. Slow dry blending medium. And extra heavy gel gloss. This is one of my favorites right here. And Satin Glazing Liquid. Also one I have a giant one of at home because I use it a lot. Okay, so to get started, I have this sheet here where I've sectioned out where the different paint is gonna go. So I'm gonna start with just the plain paint as a baseline here in this corner. And then as we go and mix in the different mediums, we'll be able to compare what that does to the paint, what the medium does. Let me talk a little bit about the supplies, the other supplies that I have today. I have a bunch of palette knives here. So this is just so I can have several palette knives so I don't have to clean them all when I get going. And I have, yes, and I have paper towels or shop towels and a wash basin, water basin with my water. Okay. All right, so let's get started. Today I'm using Liquitex Heavy Body Acrylic Medium Magenta. It's a nice color. Who doesn't like magenta? I don't know.
I was going to say I love me some magenta.
Favorite colors here. And so today I'm going to be applying the paint with a palette knife so you can kind of see how that would work. And to use a palette knife, I usually use the edge or the back side of the palette knife to apply paint. And so here I'm just going to dip it in, pick up a little bit of paint here. You don't have to be too shy. And then I'm just going to kind of make a little.
Ooh.
You like that?
I do.
Okay. So that is that'll be our baseline. I'll apply a little bit more so it's nice and thick. I do love how with acrylic paint you can work thin or thick. So I can add water and thin it out like a little bit like watercolors, or I can add or use it plain if it's a heavy body paint and it can be thick, or I can make it even thicker with this heavy gel gloss medium that we'll get to.
Snap.
Save it though, right? Okay, so let's talk about gesso. So gesso is Italian for plaster.
I was gonna say ice cream.
Ice cream? Don't eat this, right?
Italian gesso.
Yeah, so gesso basically is a primer that will help prepare your surface to be able to grip the paint really well, make a nice adhesion. It's got kind of a chalk-like look to it, appearance to it. I use it often in my painting for white paint.
Oh.
Yeah, I use it instead of white because when I paint, I use a lot of white in order to tint my colors and get lighter values. And so I tend to use this. And this is my favorite brand right here, the Liquitex Professional. It's a nice consistency. It's not too thick.
Nice.
Yeah, so here we go.
Gesso for the win, plaster
Gesso
style.
for the win. Let me go ahead and add it right
there
here.
There was a medium out there that was bilingual.
Yes. And so since I said I use this as white, it will change the value of the paint. Most of the other mediums don't actually change the value of the paint. It just adds to the pigment.
What?
And it will, yes, I know, right? And this is just a small selection.
Oh no.
So like, yeah. If you ever want to stand somewhere for a while and be a little bit dumbfounded, you can go to the mediums aisle.
Get lost.
Yeah. But anyway, but I've pre-selected these of ones that I use and that I can teach, and we carry them in our shop. We will be, right? So
yes, exciting.
Yes. Okay, so here you can see I'm mixing the paint with the gesso. You can see that just like a white paint, it's not white paint, but a lot of artists do use it as a white paint. And gesso, when you get like a pre-stretched canvas, it's often pre-gessoed as well. And what the gesso does is it helps the paint to not absorb into the canvas, like the raw canvas, or even like if you put gesso on paper, you can gesso your paper and it will also help the paint the paint will go farther because it will not have to go into, be absorbed into the paper. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Yeah. And so a lot of artists do gesso the paper. I don't always. Sometimes I will. And it does give you also a smoother surface to work on. So like if you ever are working on canvas and you don't love the texture that you're getting, because you can see like the cross hatching of the fabric and whatnot, add more gesso. I like to add more layers even to my preset gesso canvases because I like a nice smooth.
Interesting.
Smoother surface.
I would not have thought of.
Yeah.
I would have thought, you know, because I think of watercolor paper having a rough texture.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have thought of having a smoother texture being more appealing. In some ways.
You know,
so that's great.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. It depends on what you're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does help the paint to move a little better too. So, all right, here we go. You ready for this? So here's
ready.
gesso.
I'm so ready.
Okay.
Ooh, it does change the color a little bit.
So it's a little lighter, and obviously if I added more, it'd be even lighter, whatnot. And also when it dries, we'll see that it has a little bit more of a chalk-like texture, like a dull look, sheen. All right, moving on. Let's go with our matte gel medium. So this is also one I think that Jessie has introduced for art journaling. It is a soft gel matte medium, and the matte is the part that I pay attention to the most because that's going to change the appearance of your paint. Some paints will dry with a little bit of a satin or glossy finish. This will help give it a more dull finish, so like a matte-like look. And also I find that this helps when I'm using different brands of paint. It helps kind of make them more consistent so that I don't obviously notice the one that might have a little bit of a glossier sheen. So I like it for that. It also helps to extend your color, makes your paint go a little further. And one of the fun things about this is that you can use it as adhesive for collage. Did you know that?
I had no idea. Multi-purpose.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff that you can do with it. It actually creates quite a great adhesion. So instead of like glue or paste or something like that, you can use
Does it take a long time to dry?
Not particularly.
That's nice.
I don't think so, but it's workable to a degree.
Okay.
And so some of the things that you might collage onto, like I've done onto paper or canvas, other paper that I've painted and collage onto there. I've even used some of my paper palettes that I've used, and I'll cut those and I'll put those. Yeah. Some people collage and put their paint skins on there. Do you know what paint skins are, Kanan?
It sounds terrifying, but no, I do not.
So paint skin basically is, say I let this dry, I could peel this off of my palette and put it onto something.
What?
There are many people who do that. I haven't done a lot with it, but you know, it's a thing. It's a thing.
That sounds awesome.
We might have to try that sometime.
I am in.
Yes. Okay, so let's see what it does to our paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with fresh, my medium magenta. And you know, we're using the word medium a lot.
Yeah, we are.
So in this case, medium just means in between light and dark. So a medium value magenta.
Oh man, there's so many different ways to use the word medium.
This is an acrylic. The acrylic itself is a type of medium or media, you know, within the art world. And then we also have mediums that are things that we can add to our paint to change it up.
Then there's that.
So that's
lady
a lot of
on
medium.
TV.
And then there's the medium on TV, the Long Island medium maybe, right?
Yeah.
No, we're not talking about that today, right? So anyway, but yes, lots of mediums. Yes. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and mix in. And the amount you wanna use varies depending on what you're doing with it. Some of them will say, this one doesn't say. I used quite a bit. I usually will do like half and half or a little less, like a quarter. And some of the other ones I'll just show you what I actually do too. Sometimes I'll use a drop like with the Flo Aid. So anyway, so notice that this does not change the value. You're just it looks white, like on here, it looks white, but it's really more clear.
Right, it's way darker than the gesso, but it's color-wise, it's the same color as the baseline.
Yes, yep, our baseline here, right out of the tube. Correct. Okay, so I'm going to mix that in. I'm going to add all of that. When you're mixing with a palette knife, the trick is to kind of keep it contained. I'm being actually a little bit messy, but it's more fun that way sometimes, right?
It is. No, I agree.
Okay, so here we go. And I'm gonna get a lot of this because we have a lot and I've got a big space. So I'm just gonna smear that on there. Okay, so notice that my flow has improved a little bit in terms of the smoothness of it. And then when it dries, we'll have to look at the sheen.
It looks so smooth.
Yeah.
That was actually the matte gel's nickname in high school, So Smooth.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I feel like you just made that up.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm not trying to call you out.
I can't confirm nor deny.
I believe it. Why not? Why
Yes.
not? Okay. All right. So the next one I'll show you is called Flo Aid, and it is missing a W. My mistake. Flo Aid. Also from Liquitex. So what do you think this does?
I think similar to smooth, I would say it makes it flowier.
It does. It does. And the way it does that, and I'm just going to use a couple drops. The way it does that is it breaks the surface tension and makes it a little more water-like. So that
it's like a nice
spread. Yeah.
Deep tissue massage.
Nice.
Makes your energy go
I did not think about it that way.
the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're expanding my horizons. Okay. If you're first beginning with acrylics and you find that that they dry too quickly for you to feel like you can work well with them and you're getting frustrated by that, try adding some Flo Aid. Nope, that'll be slow dry. The Flo Aid will help with the getting onto your paper and making it nice and smooth and not showing as many brush strokes if you like that look. So I'm just gonna put like a couple drops on that, maybe like 1/10 to 1/8 ratio, 1 to 8. Okay, and I'm just gonna mix that in. I think I put too much, so I'm gonna add some paint.
FLO was the brand.
I did too.
Flo Aid, nice.
And that's why I did that. But then I looked at I was corrected by looking at the label.
Labels, you know what, they're controlling.
I know, right? It's like, just let me call it what I want.
Yeah,
it's not like we're trying to teach people and, we don't want to confuse them.
It's not an educational platform in any way.
So as you see, again, it doesn't change the value or color of my medium magenta. But it just makes it flow a little bit more, so it's a little more smooth. It's similar to what the matte gel medium does, but probably goes a little further. And that's the thing too, like, don't feel like you have to get all of these mediums that we're talking about. You really don't have to have any to get started at all. And some of them will do multitask, so they'll do different duties that they kind of overlap a little bit. So maybe pick one or two if you're excited to try some and try those, but don't feel obligated to get the whole gamut here. Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so let's see what this does. I don't have a lot of it. It's not as thick on my palette knife. All right, here we go. Ready?
Ready. Ooh.
That is smooth like butter. Look at that.
Looks smooth like butter.
This is kind of fun. I'm not gonna lie. I feel sad that I can't have you come do this, while you're working for free. I've heard.
Yeah. No, this is actually where I live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I sleep here.
Okay. Moving on. I'm just kidding.
Next medium.
Awkward. Okay, so now I want to talk about slow dry blending medium. This is one of the first ones that I started using because I wanted more time to mix my colors and put them onto my canvas or my paper without it drying too quickly on me, because I want it to stay workable so I could like scratch in or do different textures and things and not be dry too soon. So this does exactly what it says it does. It makes it slower, so it helps you to blend and helps you to have some more work time. So I will go ahead and add some paint here.
That's cool. We're gonna call this the intention medium.
Intention medium. Okay.
You can focus up on blending it a little more. You have a little more intention because it helps you, it slows you down a little bit.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Okay, I see what you're going.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
I had to stretch, but I got there.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like, I mean, I love that acrylic dries quickly, and I just added, by the way, a couple drops to that. So like 1 to 10 part ratio or 2 to 10,
doesn't
something like that.
require a lot then.
No, and you can add more or less depending. You want to make sure you keep the integrity of the paint there. So I wouldn't add more than half, and also read the directions too. I don't know if this says. Yeah, some of them there's a few more rules, and some of them it's kind of like, hey, see what you can figure out. All right, so this is slow dry medium, so that's not going to maybe show a whole lot, but doesn't change the sheen or the or anything like, or the value of it, but it does affect the drying time. Yes, makes it easier to mix and blend. A lot of times when I'm working on a canvas, I want to create smooth transitions between two colors, and so I want time to kind of work them together as I'm going across, kind of like when you see a color spectrum. I want it to kind of have a nice transition.
Nice,
and so
good spread.
The slow dry helps me with that. So does the Satin Glazing Liquid, and I'll share that in just a minute. But now, I think this is the one you're gonna like the most, Keenan.
Okay, good, I'm excited.
This is a fun one, okay. So this is called Extra Heavy Gel Gloss. Let me show you what this looks like inside. Look at that.
Oh dear.
That is some thick goodness.
That's like oatmeal.
Or yeah, like maybe peanut butter or gosh.
Ooh, marshmallow stuff.
A marshmallow fluff, maybe.
Yes.
Look at that though. I mean.
Yeah, that looks amazing. Oh
yes.
my goodness.
Okay, so let me show you. This is fun. This is the one I like to use to add some dimension to my pieces. And I usually kind of wait until the final layer that kind of to add on top of everything else as kind of my finishing touches. All right, so let me get some paint. Here we go. Okay, and once again, this will not change the value of it. It's only gonna change the thickness of it. And since it says gloss, it's also gonna change the sheen, so it'll make you a glossy sheen.
Is this a half and half mixture then?
This one I did about half and half,
Okay.
or actually probably even a little bit more. It does not say. I'm not an expert in all things, but do your research and see, but I have not had any problems doing half and half.
Nice.
So, yep. All right, so this, look at that. That is nice and thick. Look how much dimension.
That's
See how well it holds its
crazy.
peaks and, you know, its shape. I'm gonna mix it in real well because it's a little grainy, not grainy, but not quite as smooth as I want yet, so not fully mixed. And again, it's not adding white to this. It's not tinting it at all. It's keeping the integrity of the color there. It's just changing the consistency.
Lori, I've generated a question for you.
Okay.
Can you, I like the texture of this one, and you mentioned that this one just holds its shape really well.
Yep.
But you mentioned that you wanted to continue mixing it so that it's smoother.
Uh-huh.
Can you mix multiple mediums and get a smoother but keep shape combo?
That is a good question.
Oh snap!
That is a good question. I'm
Good.
trying to think if I've tried that.
We need to try that.
I mean, I think you probably could.
Sure.
Your results will vary, I'm sure.
Fun.
Like I'm thinking, what would I mix with this? Probably, if I wanted, I don't know. That's a good question. Like I guess I could put slow dry in there or something.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
but it would make it probably not quite as thick.
Oh, so maybe not keep the same amount of shapeability.
Right.
But other. Huh.
I think it depends on what you're going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for this, like when I use it, I like to kind of put it on my last, like if I'm doing flowers, like just a few little touches on my petals just to kind of add some dimension and some shape and interest there. All right, and also actually, this is what we used to make this button that is in the acrylic starter box. I went through and did the color wheel with all of the color. That was fun. That was fun to make that. Yeah,
fun.
and it just adds the dimension and shape.
What
and
does the button say again?
it says, I mix my own colors.
I mix my
Which
own
we should be proud
colors.
of. You can mix your own colors. All right, that's a different part of our beginner series, right?
Yeah.
And then we have an more in-depth lesson in the starter box. Okay, ready for this? Look at that. I'm gonna
Ready.
just scoop up a giant
so ready.
amount. And I'm gonna just go for it. Okay. And I can like mess with this and make it however I want. Like if I want it to be, like if you're doing ocean waves or clouds, like you can
yeah.
change what you want. Or if I'm doing like flower petals, I would probably use like a little bit of a different palette knife, but then just put just a little touches on. It's like ice. This is like a nice frosting, you know?
Oh yeah. Not
Yeah.
again, not edible.
Yes, you are right. I think most things in here we probably should not eat, right?
No, correct. Most things in the studio, unless I bring snacks.
Yeah, but let me hold that up.
Look
and
at that.
See the peaks, and it's not dry yet, but when it dries, it's going to be beautifully glossy too
Man,
on
that's
top
cool.
of that. Yeah. So
that would
that's
add
fun.
so much cool texture to a cloud. I love that idea.
Yeah. And you know, there's so many other mediums out there as well. There's like modeling paste and gel. There's even mediums that have like sand in them or like some grit or some texture to them. I think there's even like glass bead.
Oh no.
Medium where you can add it. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out what I would use that for yet, but there's a lot of options out there if you want to get, you know, get exploring and trying some different things.
Want to get crazy and
Yeah.
maybe bedazzle some things with the glass bead one?
Yes, yes. That's funny. One year for Christmas, I got a bedazzler.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was probably a couple of years too old to appreciate it.
Okay, okay.
And we were like, oh, a bedazzler, okay. Anyway, but my mom used it to make my great grandma a sweatshirt and bedazzle it. So it was great. She loved it,
fun,
and
yeah.
everybody was happy, and it went to good use.
That's great.
All good. Did you ever bedazzle anything?
I didn't. You
did not?
I've always
Aw.
secretly wanted to because it just sounds fun,
Yes,
you know?
I like that. Okay, let me talk about another one that I use probably the most out of any of these mediums is Satin Glazing Liquid. And this is one that I kind of came to a little bit when I was a little bit further along in my painting process. And what this allows you to do is really blend your paint colors beautifully. It slows down the drying time and makes the paint, it extends the paint a little bit further. So like thins it out a little bit. And anyway, I'll show you.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. Glazing, do you know what glazing is?
Yeah, when you're smoking some meat, there's a glaze that you can make and put it on there periodically.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's not completely different than what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Because it is like a layer. Again, we're not going to eat it.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, okay, but what it does, so this is thinning it out a bit. Doesn't change the color, once again, or the value. It's thinning it out a bit, and it's going to slow that drying time down. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this on here like that, okay? And I can apply this thinner, by the way. Like, it doesn't have to be super thick, even with using a palette knife, and I could use a brush as well. I'm just choosing to use a palette knife because I think it's fun for this. All right, so what I'm going to do, since one of my favorite properties of this is the blendability that it creates, is I'm going to add another color and see what we get. So this is one of my very favorite colors.
This is a plot
Phthalo
twist.
blue. Love this.
That
Okay,
is
so this is a fluid paint, so it's a little more fluid.
Like a thinner?
Thinner, yeah, same pigment load. All right, and so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use a brush for this. I'm gonna take more of my glazing liquid and take my paint and add some glazing. Look at that blue.
Oh, that is a good blue.
Isn't that nice? Okay, so I'm gonna put that in there, and then I'm just gonna kind of work it into my paint here, this pink paint, Magenta. So what it does really is it helps smooth those transition lines so that it's not quite so abrupt.
Wow.
And so if I was gonna sit here and work at it, I could really create a nice transition in there.
Whoa.
Yeah. And another thing that you can do with the glazing liquid is glaze. And what glazing is it allows you to create a thin, somewhat transparent layer to put over another layer. And so I will use this often and usually I would let it probably dry because right now it's just gonna mix in. Oh, you know what I could do? I could come up to would that be cool if I came up to our already dry
That would be very cool
baseline
if
and
you
just
did that.
added a little glaze?
Yes.
Okay, so see how this is thinning it out? Can
Yeah.
you guys see that on camera?
Yeah.
Let me move it just a tiny bit.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, so it's thinning it out there. And you can do this with any color. So some colors by nature are opaque and other colors by nature are transparent. And so no matter whether it's opaque or transparent, you can add the glazing liquid to it and create somewhat of a transparent layer. All right, so I'm gonna go over here and I'm just gonna add a stroke, okay?
Whoa.
So I think it's a tiny bit wet still, but see what happens is that you can add this blue onto your magenta and it creates some purple under there.
Yeah.
Yeah, by a glaze. And I love doing that. I love changing my colors that I have on there or toning them down with glazes. So yeah, that's something that I hope to teach in some of our future acrylic boxes.
Good, good. Please do.
Okay, so these are the 6 mediums that I wanted to share with you today, and I'll hold it up so you can kind of see. They aren't dry yet, but maybe we'll post a picture of them dry so that you can see the final product. But again, play around, explore, see what you can do with the mediums that you choose to try out, and have fun with it and enjoy. And to see more of our Acrylic Beginner Series, check out letsmakeart.com.